We're here today with Dutch Defense Minister Kajsa Ollongren. Dank u wel. Thank you for being here. And thank you for speaking to us. You said, I think back in December, that Europe needs to be fit to fight in this new age of security. And that seems to have become even more important with Donald Trump's recent comments about not only not defending Europe, but also encouraging an aggressor in a NATO country potentially. How serious are people here taking that problem?
I think we are all taking the security threats really serious. And I think my comments at the time of being fit to fight is that we know we have to get Putin-proof, as we see every day in the war in Ukraine. And now these comments by Donald Trump has made us realize we maybe also have to get ourselves Trump-proof. But in the end, it is about our common security, and I think we have very strong transatlantic ties. NATO is the strongest military alliance in history, and the US is very important, the biggest partner in this. And I think our security here in Europe and the war in Ukraine, in your fight, is about our values. It's about democracy, it's about freedom. And I know the American people attach very, very strong importance to freedom and the principle of freedom. So we take it seriously, but at the same time I think we can still count on our partners.
In the context right now of the American aid package being blocked so far in Congress, people in Ukraine are starting to get worried about this scenario of the West potentially abandoning Ukraine. And I wonder, you just said you met with President Zelensky and I'm sure with other ministers and leaders of NATO countries. Is there a common understanding that Ukraine's survival and security goes hand in hand with European security?
Absolutely. And I think the Netherlands has said that since the beginning, and we keep repeating it. We have to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. And I've had the feeling here also that all other partner countries, and there are many countries helping Ukraine, have exactly that same sense of urgency. We have to do more, not less. We have to ramp up industrial production to make sure that we get the ammunition to Ukraine that they need, that we increase the scale of drone production, for instance, which is a new but very important field on the battlefield. And we have to do the same thing for the NATO. So it's also for me a priority to make sure that we do increase production for Ukraine and that we also ramp up our stocks and that we increase our deterrence.
Among all these partners who are interested in Ukraine's defense, the Netherlands certainly stands out, especially for being one of the first countries to get on board with delivering F-16s. And there was a recent announcement that 6 more planes, which I think in Ukraine we didn't even expect, would be delivered, which we're very grateful for. Can you tell us what was the core reason for the Dutch motivation to take that extra brave step? And do you discuss with your colleagues from other partners, do you encourage them to do the same?
Absolutely. I think we simply look at what is going on in Ukraine and what does Ukraine need to be able to sustain this fight and also to push back the Russian aggressor. And air defense is of course very important. We know that Russia never got the air dominance that they wanted. But I think we have to work together to make sure that Ukraine is going to regain the air dominance. And therefore you need air defense, but you also need a strong air force. So I think it was inevitable to make the switch to NATO standards and to the F-16, which is a much more capable 4th generation aircraft. We also knew it was going to take time, that it could not be immediately. I mean, if you send Panzerhowitzers or other things, they can be put in use almost immediately after a short training. This is much more complicated, so it does take time, but it will make the Air Force of Ukraine much stronger.
And speaking of important things that fly in the air, the Netherlands also announced the joining of this new drone coalition, and I understand there have been some more announcements today about broader NATO involvement in that. But for now, there are a few details. Do you have any details you can give at least about the Netherlands' participation in it? Is it going to involve more Dutch manufacturers or Ukrainian manufacturers? focusing on what kind of drone, larger, smaller, fixed wing?
Well, I think the good thing about this drone coalition, which is also a Ukrainian initiative to do it like this, is that we are going to scale up the production with the expertise and the companies that we have in our countries, in the UK, in Latvia and other countries. But we're also going to join forces in technology because it's developing really fast. And you know what the battlefield is like. And you know how the Russians are responding to the new technology. And you need drones in all layers. So you need them for reconnaissance, you need numbers, you need specific drones. And in this coalition, we will be able to cooperate and to get you what you need at the speed of relevance.
So you have this constant dialogue between, it's interesting because you talked about, the battlefield. You need dialogue not only with industry and the government, but with the battlefield, learning these lessons. Yeah. You've built a strong communication cycle there.
We need to have the feedback loop. So, and we need it, real time, as soon as possible, because that will enable us to adapt to whatever is happening on the battlefield.
Of course, we can expect a few elections in a few different countries, and also I think some people are worried about the potential change in government after the last recent elections in the Netherlands too. For on the domestic front and having put all these initiatives in place, do you think they're potentially under threat from the new government that might form, or how do you feel about the future?
No, I think that we are now still waiting for a new government to be formed. It does take time in the Netherlands, but what I see now is very broad support in our society, but also, more importantly perhaps, in our parliament. Twice they've already expressed their will that we continue as a caretaker government to do everything we can to support Ukraine. And that means that we will do just that, and that I am sure that whatever new government and what kind of coalition there will be, that they will continue that effort. And I'm doing at least everything I can to make sure that they will.
Thank you. And any last final thoughts or announcements from what you've seen in this conference? I know that the slogan of the security report was lose-lose. Does it feel like that? What does Europe need to do now?
Well, I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves also of the successes of Ukraine. That Putin didn't reach any of his goals in Ukraine, and that you are fighting and that you are strong and determined to continue, and that it is our duty to support Ukraine in that, and that we know what to do. We have to increase production levels. We have all the coordination systems in place, and we simply have to continue in this way and ramp it up as much as possible. And I feel in the atmosphere here in this conference that there is still this strong unity that we need.
Wonderful. Kajsa Ollongren, thank you so much for your time.
Dank je wel.
Dank je wel.